Imagine an army so vast it seemed like a natural disaster, an unstoppable force that swept over Europe, changing the course of history forever. That was the Mongol Empire. Emerging from the vast, rugged steppes of Central Asia, the Mongol Empire was founded by a man of remarkable charisma and military genius, Temujin, better known as Genghis Khan. Born into a nomadic tribe, he rose from humble beginnings to become the leader of one of the most extensive empires in history. The Mongol Empire, in just a few decades, expanded at an unprecedented rate. By the time of Genghis Khan's death, it had grown to stretch from the Sea of Japan to the Caspian Sea. This was a feat of expansion unmatched in speed and scale, even by the mighty Roman Empire. What fueled this rapid expansion? Well, it was a combination of factors. But perhaps most significant was the Mongols' revolutionary approach to warfare. They were masters of the horse and the composite bow, and they used these tools with deadly efficiency. Their armies were highly mobile, capable of striking with lightning speed and then disappearing just as quickly, leaving their enemies bewildered and defeated. But it wasn't just their military prowess that set the Mongols apart. They were also incredibly adaptable, adopting and improving upon the tactics and technologies of the peoples they conquered. This adaptability, coupled with their ruthless efficiency, made them a nearly unstoppable force. The Mongols also had an uncanny ability to instill fear in their adversaries. Their reputation for utter ruthlessness preceded them, often causing panic and disarray among their enemies before a single arrow was fired. The Mongols were a force to be reckoned with, and Europe was about to find out just how formidable they were. In the 13th century, the Mongols turned their attention to Europe, a continent that was about to be shaken to its core. Imagine, if you will, a time when Europe was divided into small fiefdoms and kingdoms, each with their own ruler, language, and culture. Now imagine a force so powerful and so unexpected, it sent shockwaves through the entire continent. That force was the Mongol Empire. In the early years of the 13th century, the Mongols, under the leadership of the indomitable Genghis Khan, began their invasion of Eastern Europe. The Mongols were a force unlike any other. They were swift, they were brutal, and they were efficient. Their tactics were unparalleled, their horsemanship was legendary, and their archery was devastatingly accurate. The first European countries to feel the wrath of the Mongol onslaught were Russia and Hungary. The Mongols swept through these lands like a storm, leaving destruction in their wake. The battles were fierce, the casualties were high, and the cities were left in ruins. The European leaders were taken aback by the sheer force of the Mongols. They were unprepared, they were terrified, and they were in disarray. The panic that ensued was palpable. There were attempts at forming alliances, pleas for help were sent to the Pope, and there were even desperate attempts at negotiating with the Mongols. But the Mongols were not interested in negotiations. They were interested in conquest. They wanted to expand their empire, they wanted to control the trade routes, and they wanted to showcase their military might. And they were doing just that. The Mongols were a force to be reckoned with. They were not just invaders, they were conquerors. They were not just warriors, they were empire builders. And they were not just feared, they were respected. The Mongols seemed unstoppable, and the fate of Europe hung in the balance. In 1241, at the Battle of Mohi, the Mongols would deliver a blow to Europe that it would never forget. This was the showdown where the Mongols, under the leadership of Batu Khan and Subutai, faced off against the combined forces of Hungary, led by King Bela IV. The Mongols, a force to be reckoned with, were no strangers to the battlefield. Yet, it was their clever tactics that often tipped the scales in their favor. At Mohi, they skillfully utilized the element of surprise, attacking at dawn after a night of feigned retreat. This was a classic Mongol tactic, luring the enemy into a false sense of security before striking with a lethal force. The Mongols also mastered the art of psychological warfare. They used deceptive maneuvers, such as creating dust clouds to obscure their numbers or strategic retreats to lure their adversaries into traps. This, coupled with their superior horse archery and discipline, made them an unstoppable force on the battlefield. In the face of such cunning and might, the Europeans stood little chance. The battle ended in a decisive Mongol victory, with the Hungarian forces decimated and King Bela fleeing for his life. Europe was left in shock, and a wave of fear spread across the continent. The Battle of Mohi was more than just a clash of arms. It was a demonstration of the Mongols' military prowess, a stark display of their strategic genius and battlefield discipline. The Mongols didn't just defeat their enemies, they outsmarted them, leaving a mark on the psyche of Europe that would last for centuries. The aftermath of the battle saw the Mongols sweep through Hungary and into the heart of Europe, leaving destruction in their wake. Cities were razed, populations massacred, and a once thriving civilization was brought to its knees. The Battle of Mohi wasn't just a military victory for the Mongols, it was a psychological one. It was a clear message to the rest of Europe. The Mongols were here, and they were a force to be reckoned with. But even the mighty Mongol Empire couldn't sustain its European conquest forever. Imagine it, the invincible Mongol horde, a force that had brought Europe to its knees, suddenly halting their conquest. It was a turn of events as dramatic as it was unexpected. So what happened? Well, the answer lies in the Mongol Empire's very own heartland. In the year 1241, the great Khan Ogadai, the Mongol Empire's supreme leader, took his last breath. This unexpected death triggered an immediate power vacuum, prompting the Mongol generals in Europe to retreat back to Mongolia to participate in the selection of a new Khan. The sudden withdrawal of the Mongols from Europe was met with a collective sigh of relief from its beleaguered inhabitants. But the aftermath of the invasion was far from a return to normalcy. The Mongol conquest had left a trail of destruction in its wake, with entire cities razed and populations decimated. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. The Mongols, known for their exceptional horse riding and archery skills, had brought with them new military tactics that forever changed European warfare. They also introduced new trade routes and goods, connecting Europe to the Far East like never before. In the wake of the Mongol retreat, Europe found itself irrevocably changed. The devastation brought about by the invasion led to significant political and social upheaval. It was a catalyst for the rise of new powers and the fall of old ones. In the long run, the Mongol invasion had a profound effect on Europe's trajectory. It accelerated the end of feudalism, paving the way for the rise of modern nation-states.